The Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men is one of the most studied films in recent memory, embroiled in wild theories about the true identity of murderous Anton Chigur. Some believe he's not a man, but a ghost. Not human, but an alien. Some think he's the embodiment of the world and all its random violence. Some identify him as pure evil incarnate. Some think he is the physical manifestation of time itself, relentless and merciless. Some speculate that he's the personification of greed in the modern world, pursuing the money by any means necessary. Some think he is the devil, and some claim Anton Chigur is the living embodiment of death itself. Closer to our point here, some theorize that Chigur is either the alter ego or imagined nemesis of either Llewellyn Moss or Sheriff Ed Tom Bell. And those are good theories. They're close, but they're missing the obvious truth of Anton Chigur's true identity. He's actually Carla Jean Moss, Llewellyn's long-suffering wife. The first conceit in this theory is that Chigur is not a man, but the imagined figure of another character in the story. If he could be the alter ego of Llewellyn or of the sheriff, then he could be the alter ego of bounty hunter Carson Wells or of Carla Jean. He's unlikely to be Carson Wells, but that's possible. And the Carla Jean theory is a lot more fun, and a more complex solution always makes for a better puzzle. For Carson Wells to be Anton Chigur is just too easy for a Coen brothers film. The dual personality conceit also implies that while the viewer is seeing Anton Chigur, that may not be who the other characters are saying. If Anton is really Llewellyn, for example, that's who the other characters would see. Mustached Llewellyn Moss, not dead-eyed Anton Chigur. Let's take a look at Carla Jean. We rarely see her on her own. She vanishes from the story for long periods, and always during Chigur's crime spree. When we follow her path, Chigur disappears. So by the Clark Kent Superman correlation, they must be the same person. And whatever the seeming distance between them, for this dual character, stealing cars to get around quickly is clearly not a problem. We hardly get to know her, a personality so wan and banal that she could easily be hiding a dark side. A mental collapse could slowly be happening wherein a new personality, a man called Anton Chigur, is created in her brain and slowly overtakes her personality. We know Llewellyn ignores her, and she is needy for something in her life. And Llewellyn is so preoccupied with other things that he'd barely know such a thing were happening to his own wife at all. From the point Llewellyn takes the water back to the crime scene early in the film, Carla Jean has access to the money. She could be pursuing Llewellyn from this time forward as Anton Chigur, not for the money, but to discover other conspirators or loose ends. A double killing by Chigur a short time later at the crime scene confirms this aspect of the theory. Skeptics will ask how she could have been involved with the drug deal to begin with, but the Chigur personality could have been working on that long before our story begins. She could have been living a double life as both Carla Jean locally and Anton Chigur in dealing with others remotely, likely over the phone. That's how the name becomes known to Carson and to the man who hires Carson to kill Chigur and retrieve the money. And since so much of the violence is weaponized and not hand-to-hand, a small woman could easily deliver the blood spree as Anton Chigur. Even strangling the deputy could be possible considering the positions of the killer and the victim. She may even have killed her own mother as Chigur, a death we do not see on screen. Remember that nobody knows quite what Anton looks like, other than Carson Wells. But he could be lying, too. He's a cocky con man, a big talker, ready to say or do anything to advantage himself, just as he does in the hotel room scene with Chigur. When Carson scolds Chigur as insane, he could easily be speaking to a woman in the throes of a psychotic breakdown. People's reactions to Chigur, the farmer in the truck and the man at the gas station, the female supervisor at the trailer park, are all befuddled by Chigur, as they would be by a woman acting so strangely. What man would let another man raise a weapon to his forehead like that? He wouldn't, but he might let a woman do it. The scene where Sheriff Bell interviews Carla Jean and mentions the murder weapon finds Carla Jean annoyed and seemingly confused. She asks specifically why the sheriff mentions this, and the sheriff sloughs it off. But in truth, he is testing her, and she was proving herself vulnerable to a mention of that weapon. Why would she if she weren't the murderer? Carla Jean even asks Sheriff Bell later about that same story. Why would that stick in her head? It's because she is testing him to see how close he is to catching Chigur, also herself. Would Carla Jean seek to murder her own husband? As Chigur takes over her personality, considering the neglect and loneliness and sense of uselessness which drove her into her psychosis, I would say that she would indeed kill him, not for the money, but for revenge, for her identity. Well, Carla Jean wouldn't, but the Chigur personality certainly would. Some would object that there is a scene where Llewellyn and Chigur speak on the phone, Chigur making an offer concerning Carla Jean's fate. Surely, he'd recognize his own wife's voice. But I would say that Chigur's voice is so strange, so affected, that it could be Carla Jean. The voice is so low and growly, it would be hard indeed to tell who it really is, especially with a case of multiple personality. Remember that in this theory, Norma Jean has been passing herself off as Anton Chigur over the phone with a variety of other people, the drug cartel included. So that means she would be practiced in the art of disguising her voice. And since Llewellyn wouldn't be expecting that approach, because he is so ignorant of his wife's secret double life, he wouldn't be likely to assume that it is her. He probably wouldn't believe it if you told him. One theory which might contradict this is the idea that a true character cannot share the screen or a scene with his or her alter ego, and Carla Jean and Chigur do share a scene at the end of the film. But this concept of the alter ego proves nothing, as the two leads in Fight Club have lots of scenes together, and they're well known to be two facets of a single character, not two different characters. And the scene where Carla Jean is confronted by Chigur only proves my theory. The scene happens after the funeral of Carla Jean's mother, and it's not Chigur deciding what to do with Carla Jean. It is Carla Jean's last turn as her previous self. After the funeral, the Chigur personality within Carla Jean has no further use of that avatar, and Chigur wipes that persona away forever without a trace. From this point, the Chigur personality has become complete. Carla Jean says that she knows what she's in for when she saw Chigur in that bedroom, and she's right. But how does she know who he is and what he's going to do? Because Chigur is Carla Jean, there to complete the transformation and permanently replace the weaker personality. One could argue that to disprove this theory, when Anton endures a car crash after the bedroom scene, one of the kids on the street, the one who sells him his shirt, calls Chigur Mr. But at that point, The transformation of Carla Jean into Chigur is so compelling and so complete that only the male facet, only Chigur, survives or is seen. It even recalls Chigur's question of the accountant earlier in the movie. Whether Chigur kills the accountant depends on the question, "Do you see me?" But it's possible that the two men in that office are seeing Carla Jean in the throes of a Chigur phase and simply don't live to tell the tale. We never get the answer to that creepy question. But any other answers to the question of Anton Chigur's true identity have now been verifiably solved, without question. And Ed Tom Bell? Get a second syllable. If you liked this video, check out my other Theory to End All Theories videos on The Sopranos, The Office, The Blacklist, The Shining, or an upcoming video on how Casper the Friendly Ghost is what happened when Sweet Pea Oil took a fateful trip on one of Jeffrey Epstein's yachts.